mute everyone.
Sure.
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today on this webinar. My name is Yandy Reynoso, and I am the Education USA Advisor in Mexico City. And today with us, we have Alejandra Campos, who is Senior Admissions Counselor from the University of Chicago. And she will be teaching us how to publish our personal statements and supplemental essays for the undergraduate application. Please, I will ask you to mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. At the end, we will have time for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box, okay? So thank you for being here, and now I'll give the opportunity to Alejandra to teach us how to work on our essay.
All right, thank you, Yandy. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. As Yandy mentioned, my name is Alejandra Campos, and I am a Senior Admissions Counselor here at the University of Chicago. So everyone within my office has different territories that they get to work with. I get to work with students coming from Mexico, Central America, the Caribbean, as well as Puerto Rico and Sub-Saharan Africa. So I'm very excited to be able to talk to you today. I'll be talking a little bit about essays specifically, and then I'll give a brief overview about U Chicago as far as academics, as well as a little bit about student life. And then at the end, there will be an opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have. So you'll be able to type those into your chat box, and we'll be able to get through as many as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera here because I do want you to be able to see the presentation that I have. All right, so to get started on personal statements and supplemental essays. So why are personal statements important? Well, personal statements really is the first way where I get to really know the student a little bit more. All students, the majority of the time, will be applying through either the Common Application or the Coalition Application. So these are both going to be application platforms that allow for students to be able to apply to many different schools at one time. So within this application, you'll be submitting your transcripts, you'll be submitting letters of recommendation, submitting your essays. These essays are going to be very important because your grades you have been working on for the past 3, even 4 years if you're applying regular decision, and we do get to see your senior year grades. Your letters of recommendation, someone else will be writing for you, whether it be your counselor or your teachers. But these essays are a part of the application that you have full control of in the moment. And quite honestly, it's my favorite part of the application because this is where I really get to know the student a little bit more. When it comes to your personal essay, there is one thing we're looking for, and it really should be that it's be centered on yourself. Many times I have read essays where students will talk about a family member or a friend who has influenced them, which this is always great to hear. However, if you choose to write something like this, please make sure that you're still able to turn it around so that we are getting to know you. Because if you're talking about, say, an aunt or an uncle, then we're getting to know another individual. And we really want to be able to get to know you because you're the one who is applying within this application. It is also important to keep in mind that your personal essay will be going to all the different schools that you're applying to. So it should not be focused on one institution specifically because all of your schools will be seeing this essay. So here on the screen, I have a few examples of essay prompts that have been used in the past. These are for the 2017-2018 application cycle, and these were from the Common Application. The Coalition Application will have something similar. As you can see through these, they are a little bit vague. The reason for this is there isn't one specific thing that we're looking for when it comes to your personal statement. So one of the common things that students will ask me about, they sometimes feel that we're looking for them to write about a challenge that they've overcame. So sometimes I've had students ask me, what if nothing bad has ever happened to me? That's perfectly fine. You're 17 or 18 years old, and I hope that maybe you haven't faced any big obstacles or had any hard circumstances that you had to overcome. If say that you have, tell us about this circumstance, but also tell us how you reacted to it, what you may have learned from it, what the outcome was. You can also tell us maybe about an interest that you have, something that's very important to yourself. It doesn't need to be anything big. It can be something small that just is very important to you, and tell us why it's important to you. So here are just a few examples, but you always have the option to create your own essay prompt if you feel that the ones that have been provided either by the Common application or the Coalition application don't fully ask the question that you're trying to answer within your essay. So another thing to keep in mind when it comes to your personal statement is it's not meant to be a brag sheet or a resume. When writing your essay, really try to tell us something that hasn't already been said within your application. For example, if you're telling me maybe about an extracurricular that's very important to you, I already saw your extracurricular within your application, so don't just list off multiple extracurriculars. Focus on one and say why it's important to you, why it's something that you're interested in continuing to pursue if that might be the case. And here I highlighted or emphasized the word personal because once again, I want to keep reminding you that it should be personal and it should focus on you. A tip that I often offer to students is have someone peer check your essays for you before you submit them. It's always important to have a second eye because once you've read a document numerous times, you can miss a few things. If there's a minor punctuation error or minor misspelling, you won't be penalized for it, but it's important just to make sure that all the T's are checked and the I's are dotted so that it does look polished. However, if you have someone peer check it for you, make sure that it still sounds like you. A tip that I often offer to students is also pretend that you're dropping your essay on the ground and either your mom or your friend pick it up among many other essays. If they pick it up, can they still tell that it was you who wrote this essay, or would they think it was someone else's? So it's important that it still sound like you. And keep it simple. I mentioned the example of listing multiple extracurriculars. Focus maybe on one or two things, because if it's very listy, you might get off topic. So it should really just focus on one theme or topic within your essay. So here I have an example that I want you to read to yourself, and then I'll also read out loud. And it's an example just that I'll have two different versions of this short paragraph that I'll talk about. So to start from the beginning, I live in a house in West Provo. I like the view from our house. We have lived there since November. We also have a car that I like very much. We were in an accident a few months ago. We hit a deer that was crossing the street at night. I felt sorry for the deer, but it cost a lot of money to repair the car. So this is just a very short example of something that we might see in a personal statement. So a few things that I want to add about it is that it's very simple and it doesn't have much emotion. Another thing that I noted within this short paragraph is that you really can't visualize it too much. So the writer talks about having lived in this house since November, and they talk about an accident that happened a few months ago. But other than that, it doesn't give me too much. And now I have a second version of it. My husband and I bought our first house last November. We love it. It is located in West Provo near Utah Lake. Although we cannot see the lake from our house, we do have a beautiful view of Mount Timpanogos. Our house has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, and a family room, and a large kitchen and dining area. We also have a large backyard and a small garden. We are very happy to own our own home, and I hope that we will live there for several years. The second example gives much of the same information, where the reader is talking about their new home, but this one tells me a little bit more. It helps me better visualize the house that the writer is talking about. So when I give this workshop to students in person, I often ask, who here has ever visited Mount Timpanogos? Usually, no one has. And then I'll ask, who here has ever visited a lake? Which this is something that we can usually visualize. So within this small paragraph that gives me more details, I can visualize the house. I can visualize the lake. I can also picture a little bit more about the house. In the original blurb, the reader just told me that they purchased a new house. This time around, the writer told me that the house has 3 bedrooms, it has 2 bathrooms, a living room, and a family room. So it really is helping me paint the picture, and I'm getting to know the writer a little bit more because I'm able to visualize what they're telling me about. This is something that we hope to see within your personal statement. Whatever story you choose to share, we want to be able to visualize what you're telling us and feel some of your emotions within your essay, even if it is something simple that you're sharing with us. So that was a little bit about the personal statement, but I also want to highlight supplemental essays because these are some that many different institutions will ask students to also write within their application. These are all going to be institution specific, and it's very important to carefully look at the questions that the institutions are asking and make sure you also carefully look to see if they have a word limit. Here at UChicago, we're not very strict when it comes to word limit. We usually tell students, try to keep your essay about 1 page. However, if your essay goes slightly under or slightly over the 1-page limit, there will be no penalty. However, there are some institutions who are very strict when it comes to this, and you should follow those instructors that have been given. A common supplemental essay that many different institutions will ask students to write is what they call their Why UChicago essay or Why X University essay. When it comes to writing these essays, it's very important that you're writing individual essays to each university that's asking you to write this essay, because we have been reading hundreds of essays for many years, and we can tell when an essay has been reused for multiple institutions. Also keep in mind that when I'm reading your Why UChicago essay, I'm not looking for you to convince me that the University of Chicago is the best school in the world. However, I'm looking for you to convince me that it might be the best school for you. Also, don't just make it listy and tell me facts about the university. I work for UChicago, so I know many of these things. Pick a few things about the university that are important to you, things that make you excited to be a student here at UChicago. Some examples might be something about the liberal arts curriculum. It's something that is very unique to UChicago, so we like to see that students are excited about the liberal arts curriculum. Or maybe there's a specific major that you're very excited about that's very unique to UChicago or to another institution where you might be writing a similar essay for. Or maybe there's a faculty member you really want to learn from. Try to stay away from focusing on things that could apply to many other schools. For example, if a student tells me, I want to attend UChicago because it has a beautiful campus, it's located near a lake, it's in a big city. Well, these are all true. They also apply to many other schools within the city of Chicago or in other cities. So I might read this and say, well, this student might be happy here, they might be successful, but they could also be happy at many other institutions. Another thing that has happened from time to time is we read a few essays that sound a little bit generic, and then we see the name of another institution. Please don't do that. We know that you're dedicating a lot of time to writing these essays, but please take your time and write individual essays for the multiple schools that you might be applying to. And I really can't emphasize it enough, where answer the prompt. Along with the Why UChicago essay, here at UChicago, we have a second supplemental essay that we have students write about. Our extended essay, each year, we introduce 5 new essay prompts from which students can choose from. And you can choose any of our new essay prompts, but you could also choose any of our old essay prompts. We honestly have no preference over which one you choose. One of the ones that we introduced this year goes along the lines of, if a hot dog is a sandwich and cereal is a soup, is a blank a blank? So for this essay, you could choose 2 items and argue whether they are or they are not. Another one of our new essay prompts is something along the lines of, if there is limited matter in the world, how can Olive Garden truly offer unlimited breadsticks? I don't know, how can they? That is something that you get to tell us within this essay. But these are only 2 of our new ones. We also have some past essay prompts that students still continue to write about each year. So some have included things like, where is Waldo really? Find X. What's so great about Wednesdays? Compare apples to oranges. There are 2 kinds of people in the world. What are they? When it comes to these essays, we don't have a specific format or specific response that we're looking for. All students interpret these completely different. These essays are not designed to tell us what students think, but rather how they think. All of these essay prompts have been introduced either by current students or alumni of the college. So it's all people who have had to write these essays in the past. And we hope that you have fun with these. If you have fun writing it, we're going to enjoy reading the essay. If you're funny, you can be funny in this essay. I also like to say that if you're not naturally funny, this might not be the best time to try, but hopefully you'll enjoy writing your essays. A few other supplemental essays that other institutions ask students to write. I believe it's Stanford that will have students write a letter to their future roommate. There's also an institution which has students talk about their name and the significance behind their name. Or sometimes some schools will have students write an essay focusing on the major that they're applying to and explaining why they're interested in that major. But honestly, just the number one thing we're looking for is for students to answer the prompt that they're being asked. Along with the ones that we introduce each year or many of our old essay prompts, we also give students the option to create their own prompt. If this is the option that you choose, just let us know what prompt you're responding to, what prompt you created. Sometimes we'll read essays where we don't know what the student is responding to, so just type up the prompt at the top of your page. Another thing that I like to mention when it comes to creating your own essay prompt, please do not reuse an essay that you may have submitted for another institution, because we are aware of these other supplements that other schools are asking students to write, so we can tell when an essay has been reused. We can also usually tell when you're submitting an essay that you may have submitted for a homework assignment. So please don't do that. Make sure that you are writing individual essays for these college applications. So these are the ones that I mentioned briefly here previously. The uncommon essay, which would be the ones that we introduce the 5 new essay prompts each year, and then the Why Use Chicago essay. I mentioned that there is not going to be a specific approach that we look for. So along with the ones that we introduce, which typically will require an essay response, we have also introduced a few in the past that this does not necessarily have to be a written essay. It can be something that you draw out within your application. So to give you a brief recap, I mentioned 3 different essays that we require here. A few institutions may only require the personal essay. Some may even require up to 4 essays. Make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to answer these essay prompts. These should not be something that you're typing up the night before. It should be something that is a well thought out answer, and that you give yourself plenty of time to have someone be able to peer check them for you. Have fun when it comes to writing your essays, but also keep the final reader in mind. Keep in mind that this will be an adult and admissions counselor whose job it is to review your essays. And very important, make sure you're answering the prompt. When it comes to the Why Use Chicago essay, telling us why you're looking to be a student at the University of Chicago. When it comes to your personal statement, telling us about yourself, because we really want to truly get to know you a little bit better within your application. And then the extended essay, whichever essay prompt you choose, make sure you're answering that question. I didn't mention the whiteout test previously, but it is something that's very important. This would be applicable to the Why Use Chicago essay or the Why XYZ University essay, where if you white out the name Use Chicago and then you substitute it with the name of another school, could it apply to the other school, or does it still sound like it's very specific to the University of Chicago? This is very important because we want to make sure that this essay sounds very specific to us. Then here I have a few different photos, just photos that were taken around campus. So I did an overview on essays, but I also want to be able to talk a little bit about the University of Chicago specifically. So we are located in the city of Chicago. More specifically, we're located within a community called Hyde Park. The city of Chicago is very large, and it's divided into about 77 different communities. Hyde Park is about 7 miles or 11 kilometers south of downtown, but you can be there in a matter of about 20 minutes, either by bus or by car. Is very easily accessible. Currently, we have about 6,800 students at the undergrad level, so we are a medium-sized university with about a 5-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio. So we do like to keep class sizes fairly small because we want you to be able to learn from your peers, but also have that one-on-one attention from your faculty. At the undergrad level, we only have one school, which we call the college. So even though we do have a school of law, school of business, school of medicine, at the graduate level, at the undergrad level, everything will be housed under one school. And when students are applying to the university, we don't require that you apply into a particular major, because we encourage that students be able to explore across different disciplines. So even though we may ask what your intended major is, we don't see this as you applying into that specific major. We just see it as you applying into Use Chicago. Currently, we have about 50 different majors and 40 different minors that you can choose from. And we don't require that students declare their major until their 3rd year. So you have plenty of time to explore a few different options to fully figure out what you want to do. Your academics are broken up into 3 equal parts, one of them being your major, the second being your core, and the final third being your elective courses. So your major, as I mentioned, you can start as early as your 1st year if you come in already knowing what you want to do, or you don't have to declare it until your third year. The core is our way of labeling the liberal arts curriculum. So every single student, regardless of what major they choose, will be taking courses within the 8 components of the core. So these will be your humanities, your civilizations, your social, physical, and biological sciences, as well as a math and art and a foreign language. So all students are required to complete these. However, no 2 students ever have the same exact curriculum because there will be many different options and flexibility within each of the 8 components of the core. When it comes to your physical science requirement, for example, one student might be taking a physics course, while someone else might be taking chemistry or a global warming class. When it comes to your arts requirement, one student might be visiting different art museums throughout the city and analyzing these art pieces for their art history course, while another student might be taking a film cinema class where they're watching different films and analyzing these films. For your foreign language requirement, there are going to be over 100 different languages that you get to choose from. So you truly do get to choose classes that interest you and that you're excited about taking. I also like to highlight that these core classes are capped at 19 students, so they will be very small class sizes. These classes are designed to be discussion-based rather than lecture-based. So when you attend class, your instructor will not be standing behind a podium and telling you what to think. Rather, your instructor will be sitting with you and your peers around a round table and having discussions on maybe lectures that they have asked you to read or those art pieces that you may have visited throughout the city. So you will be expected to come to class and ready to participate. The final component of your academics will be spent taking your elective courses. For some students, electives are just random classes that they're interested in taking that they haven't already been able to take within their core or their major. Well, for other students, these elective courses do add up to a double major or a minor or even a double minor. We are in the quarter system, which means that our calendar looks a little bit different than it would at some other institutions. For this reason, students are typically only taking 3 to 4 classes at a time, where they go to class for 10 weeks, then they have a week of final exams, then they're done with those classes, they have a break, they come back and do it again, then they have another break, and then they do it once again. Even though it is a quarter system, typically students are only taking classes in the fall, winter, and spring quarter, and summer quarter might be when they focus on doing internships or research. Internships are something that we highly encourage all students to participate in because we see this as a great opportunity for them to explore a field to see if it's truly something that they're interested in, and many times these do lead to full-time employment. Currently, we offer what we call the Metcalf Internship Program, and these are going to be internship opportunities that organizations have set aside for our students alone. So they've hired our students in the past and they like the work that our students are doing, so they want to continue hiring our students. These are all going to be paid opportunities because we want you to get paid for the work that you're doing. Many of them are within the city of Chicago, but we also have them in other cities and other states, and currently in about 60 different countries. So there are many different opportunities of different places where you could go do internships. So that was just a very brief overview on academics. I do want to briefly touch on student life here on campus, because when you look at universities, you need to consider that this will be a place where you'll be calling home for 4 years. So we definitely hope that you'll be able to find your home away from home. For this reason, we have a housing system designed here at UChicago to really become students' first community when they come to campus. The majority of our students, when they first come, this is the first time they've ever left home for a long period of time. For many of these students, they also don't know any other students when they first arrive. So we really hope that you'll be able to become acclimated with campus right away and feel comfortable within your living situation. So all students are required to live on campus during their first and second years. Housing is still an option during their third and fourth year, however, no longer required. But every year we see more and more students wanting to continue living in campus housing due to the tight-knit communities that are formed. So every single student will be part of what we call a house. Each house is very diverse in that it will have students from different backgrounds, different grade levels, different majors. However, what makes each student a house is that they all have different traditions and a common spirit that they follow. And students take great pride in their houses. I can assure you, regardless of what current student or alumni you talk to, they will tell you their house is the best house on campus. And they all have different fun things that they do together. For example, there's one house that's known for going out to the Midway, which is a big strip of grass on campus, and playing soccer at midnight. There's one house that's known for having a pancake study break, where once a week they stop what they're doing, they come together in the house lounge, and they make pancakes together. All houses also go on different house trips together, even though there is so much that you can always do on campus throughout our many organizations that we offer. We also want you to be able to go into the city and be able to see all that the city has to offer. For this reason, we give all students what we call the U-Pass, which would give you unlimited access to the various forms of public transportation. But along with this, we would also give you what we call the Arts Pass, which gives you free access to a few different museums around the city, as well as discounts to different theater shows and musicals that might be happening. So that was just a very brief overview on academics as well as student life here on campus. I will now open it up to any questions that you may have. So if you have any questions about essays or UChicago specifically, please feel free to type those into the chat.
Thank you, Alejandra. I think there are a few questions, but they are not related to the presentation that you just gave. But okay, we can start reading them. Let's see. Anas is asking, when should we write essays?
Certainly. So great question. When it comes to your essays, you can definitely start writing them early. So applications will become available the summer before your senior year. The common application, I believe, opens up early August, and the coalition application will open up early July. So for most of these that you'll be applying to, you already know that you'll be writing your personal statement. So this is something that you can begin working on before you even start the application. Also, do your research about other schools that you'll be applying to. Many schools do require the essay that I mentioned, the Why UChicago essay, or Why XYZ University. So if these are schools that you're interested in, you can start writing about different things that make you excited to be a student there and have those essays ready for when applications do become available. But if you don't start over the summer, you don't start early, just make sure that you are aware of the different deadlines that different institutions offer. Some schools are a little bit more lenient when it comes to their deadlines, but some do have a hard cutoff.
Thank you. There's another question. It says, could you clear the concept of financial aid? How does it work, and how much should we expect to get as aid, and how to ensure you receive more?
Definitely. So when it comes to financial aid, this is something that will be very different from university to university. Here at UChicago, we offer both merit as well as need-based aid. When it comes to merit aid, we don't require any additional supplemental materials. So I always tell all of my students, send me your best possible application, and everyone is automatically considered for these merit scholarships, where we are able to offer a little bit more aid and give students a little bit more of an idea of what they might be eligible to receive, would be in the form of need-based aid. For this, we would ask students to fill out either the FAFSA or the free application for federal student aid or the International Student Financial Aid application, as well as the UChicago worksheet. So both of these forms will be asking questions about your parents' income, your household size, how many students they'll be putting through college for the upcoming school year, all different factors that will be taken into consideration with how much your family will be expected to pay, as well as how much aid you'll be receiving. So once both of these documents have been received, our office comes up with what we consider is your expected family contribution, or how much you might be eligible to receive. Then everything else we will meet 100% in the form of scholarships, as grants, as well as work study, without ever including any student loans. In 2014, we introduced what we call the No Barriers program, which was a commitment from our institution to our students to help them graduate without ever incurring any student debt. So we'll never include any student loans within your packages. However, if you and your family determine that for part of your expected family contribution, it's best to take out a loan, you certainly can. However, we will not include it directly in your package. To give you a little bit more of an idea of what you might be eligible to receive, and these numbers will be in dollars. I apologize that I don't have the exact conversion with foreign currency, but it works the same way for all students, where if your parents' combined income is $125,000 or less, we guarantee the full cost of tuition. If your parents' combined income is $60,000 or less, we guarantee the full cost of attendance. So in that case, you would be attending for free. If your parents' income is above the $125,000 mark, This does not mean that you wouldn't be receiving any financial aid. It might just be less than the full cost of tuition. Also, for any student who checks off the box letting us know that they will be applying for financial aid, we do waive the $75 application fee, so it's free to apply. And something that I always encourage all students to do here for U Chicago, as well as for any other schools within the US that they might be considering, is to visit our website and use our net price calculator tool. By law, all universities and colleges within the US are required to have the net price calculator on their website. This tool will ask many of the same questions that you're being asked either through the FAFSA or the International Student Financial Aid application. However, it will never ask for your name. It will not ask for your email. It will not ask for your phone number. No personal information, but then in a matter of minutes, it'll give you a pretty accurate estimate of how much funding you might be eligible to receive. This is especially helpful for any students who may be considering between early decision and early action. Since if you apply early decision, you won't be seeing your financial aid package until the time you find out you're admitted. This will help you get a general idea of what financial aid you might be receiving. And it's also helpful to compare across different universities because all schools are able to offer different kinds of aid. So this will be a good tool for you to be able to compare what your financial aid package might look like from school to school.
Thank you. Somebody else is asking, how many international students does the university have?
Yeah, so I don't have an exact number. This is something that varies from year to year. For the incoming students that started this fall, our incoming class was about 1,800. Of those, I know that about 17% were admitted. We are actively recruiting all across the world. We do like to have a very diverse class. Every year, about 100 different countries are represented. So even though I don't have an exact number of how many students, I can tell you that our incoming class last year was about 17% international.
Okay, somebody has a question about the SAT. It says, how much does SAT scores affect your scholarship and acceptance rate? And what are the criteria that Chicago checks you for handing out scholarships?
Yeah, definitely. So the first part of the question about how does SATs affect your application and likelihood of being admitted or receiving a scholarship? When we review applications here at U Chicago, we are reviewing them holistically. And what I mean by this is that there is not one piece of information that is more important than the other. I will never look at just one piece and automatically say, yes, I'm admitting the student, or no, I am not admitting the student. So you'll be submitting an application, you'll be sending us your transcripts, letters of recommendation, essays, and extracurriculars, and the standardized testing. When it comes to standardized testing, we have a test flexible policy. And what this means is that you have a few different options of what test scores you could submit. So you could submit your SATs or you could submit ACTs. If you're doing an IB diploma, you could also submit your IB predicted scores in lieu of either the SAT or ACTs. If you are attending an AP school and you're doing many different APs, you can also submit AP test scores instead of ACTs or SATs. But please keep in mind that it's only one piece of information, so we won't put all our emphasis on that specifically because all other pieces of information will be important as well. In regards to the likelihood of receiving a scholarship due to testing, all applications of all admitted students go through a separate review cycle. So as your regional counselor, whether it be from Mexico or Central America, I will be the first person reviewing your application. Then someone else in the office will read it, another admissions counselor. Then I read it once again to make sure I didn't miss anything, or maybe you submitted additional documents after your initial submission. Then we do a committee of 5 to 6 people where we talk about all applications once again. So all applications will get read numerous times by the admissions committee. And then of all the students that we vote to admit, they go through a separate review process. And the separate committee is made up of our dean, a few different faculty members, a few different deans across the university to then award these merit scholarships.
Thank you. Somebody's asking about the student community and clubs and societies at U Chicago.
Yes, Definitely. So there definitely is a big sense of community here on campus. There's many different activities that you can be a part of. I often joke that students could go all 4 years without ever having to leave campus because there is always something happening. So currently we have about 450 different RSOs, or registered student organizations. These range anywhere from academics to social groups, culture groups, athletics. Currently our largest organization is theater, with about 400 different members. You don't have to be studying theater or music to be involved. Maybe you are interested in performing, but maybe you're interested in creating the backdrops or doing the special effects. There's different ways that you could become involved within theater. But then we also have some very unique organizations, such as the Grilling Club, which is one of our newest clubs. There was a student who had an interest in grilling, so he got a few friends together. They got funding and they were able to buy these grills that they bring out to the quad and they cook for their peers. We also then have the Hot Chocolate Appreciation Club with just 5 members. They sit in the quad and they drink hot chocolate. So there is always something for everyone to do. If you have an idea for an organization that has not yet been started, as long as you can get 5 friends together, you can get funding to start your new organization.
Thank you. Carlos says, I've never been good when it comes about write about me. What could I do in order to improve my essay?
Yeah, definitely. So great question. When it comes to writing your personal essay, jot down a few different ideas. And I know that sometimes it might feel a little overwhelming to think that you're going to be writing many different essays. And I hope that's not the case, but jot down a few ideas and just get your thoughts flowing. It's very rarely happens that one student will start one essay and write it in one sitting and that's what they submit. And it is something that takes time. Find a few different ideas that kind of flow and go with it. And try to not stress too much about it. It can be something very small. An example that I've shared in the past, I once had a student who had drafted up an essay. We were doing an essay workshop. We were going to be reviewing these essays, and she told me she no longer was going to be submitting the essay that she had originally drafted up. Instead, something that happened throughout this workshop was that people kept commenting on her fingernails. Each nail was a different color. That was something that was very unique to her. It was something small, but was different about her, and it was something that was important to her because she felt that this was something about her personality. So when I share this example, I'm not hoping that everyone will be able to identify with it. However, I like to share this because it's something very small that was important to the student. It doesn't have to be an out-of-the-box idea, but that's something that she considered was important to her. So it's something she chose to write about. So I hope that gives you a little bit more of an idea of things that you might be able to write about.
Thank you. Okay, one more question. What are the extracurricular activities you value the most?
Yeah, so great question. When it comes to extracurriculars, the honest answer is I don't have one extracurricular that I'm looking for within all applications. So when we ask about extracurriculars, we just like to see what you're interested in and what you dedicate your time to, whether it be that you play a sport or you play an instrument, maybe you have a part-time job, or maybe you have family responsibilities where you may go home and help a younger sibling do their homework. Whatever it might be, please include it in your application. The reason we ask about extracurriculars is since we have so much that you can be a part of when you come to campus, we like to think that if you dedicated your time to something in high school, you're also going to be involved within our U Chicago community and not just sit in your dorm all day. So whatever it might be that you do, please include it. There have been times where I've read applications where students don't include any extracurriculars. And then when I get to their essays, teachers or counselors will tell me this student may work a part-time job where they're working 20 hours per week, or they go home and they help with their parents' family business. So these are all things they're dedicating time to, so they should definitely be included within your extracurriculars.
Great, thank you so much. Let's do one more question, the last one. I think you mentioned something about scholarships, but somebody's asking about merit-based scholarships.
Yes. So we do offer merit-based scholarships. Typically, these will range anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000. So they are going to be partial tuition scholarships scholarships. For these, we don't require any supplemental application materials. So all admitted students to the college do go through a separate committee where these are awarded. They are going to be renewable. So if you receive one your first year, you'll have it across all 4 years.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Alejandra, for this great session and for this webinar. I encourage everyone, if you guys have any more questions, Alejandra has shared her email and also another email address where you can write them to us specific questions about the University of Chicago or about what she talked about. So thank you so much everyone for joining us today. We will make sure to send you also the recording of this session in case you want to watch it again or use it as a reference when you write your essays. Thank you so much, Alejandra.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for joining. If you think of any additional questions or any additional information that you would like me to provide for you, I did include my email here on the PowerPoint, so please don't be shy, send me an email. The second email address that I shared is managed by our current student workers in my office. So these are students who all come from different backgrounds, different grade levels, different majors. If you have a question maybe on a club or a class, I'm not a student, so I'll try my best to answer these for you, but I might not be the most knowledgeable when it comes to these specific things. So you can always reach out to them. They get very excited to talk to prospective students.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much and have a nice evening, everyone.